Chào mừng các bạn đã đến với podcast của DLA Coaster Talk. Ở tập tuần này, LA mời một bạn người Pháp, cho nên đây là section bằng tiếng Anh đầu tiên của podcast này ha. Bây giờ LA xin chuyển sang tiếng Anh để có thể giao tiếp với bạn. Hello Emmanuel, welcome to DLA Coaster Talk show.
Yeah, hello Lana, nice to meet you.
Do you know that you are the first foreigner guest I have invited to my podcast?
I appreciate, and it's an honor for me.
Because before you couldn't hear my podcast, right? It's all in Vietnamese.
Yeah, unfortunately, I heard about the topics you mentioned to me, but I didn't. I mean, of course, I couldn't listen.
Okay, so just a bit introduction. Here's like Emmanuel, French, handsome guy, living in Vietnam for how many years?
6 years now.
Oh, 6 years. Yeah. And the topic of the podcast today is the Expat living in Vietnam. So actually, Manu, we are friends for 2 or 3 years already.
Yeah, 2 years and a half, I think.
Yeah. And I think we never come up to the topics like this, like asking you about the experience when you live in Vietnam. So today is like the coffee chat. It's more for me to understand more about you and the experience you live in Vietnam. One of the motivations why I do this podcast because we have some friends who will come to Vietnam as his first journey living in Vietnam as well. So this is also combined things to discuss, and also I like to give him as a gift, more or less for him understand more about Vietnam and the experience as an expat living in Vietnam.
I think it's interesting also for the Vietnamese to understand the perspective of the expats.
Yeah.
How it is to live in Vietnam. So I think it's both ways.
Yeah, sure. It's both ways. Actually, because in the previous episode, I was talked to someone who lived in Thailand, live in Finland, and later on will be someone's like overseas Vietnamese returning to Vietnam. We have different perspective and point of view, but we don't really have the experience as like someone totally new and come to Vietnam and everything at the first time. So really interested to hear your sharing about that. So now can you share with the audience here a little bit about your story?
Yes, so thank you again for inviting me to this podcast, Lanan, and I'm very glad to answer all those questions. Hope it helps, or it's giving a bit of interest for people. So I'm born in France, kind of in the countryside, northwest of France, a province called Brittany. I'm part of a family of we are in total 5 people, and I have so 1 younger brother and 1 younger sister. To put a bit of context, the city I'm born is a very mixed city. So I had actually some Vietnamese friends in my hometown city because there are a lot of immigrants from Africa, Asia, so different countries. So I have been always among a lot of different nationalities. Sometimes I didn't realize at that time, but it was very natural. But I think later I can feel like in my journey in Vietnam now it's very helpful and helped me to adapt and integrate faster. So fast forward, so I went to university, business school in France, and then we had to study. I chose at that time the major supply chain, but I wanted to do a business school because I always dream about living overseas. I watch some movie or series of expat living in a different country, and it's always been my dream of I want to live in different countries. It's not like just travel. I'm less interested in to travel, but really I want to live and build a life in a different country, and not just experimenting like 1 or 2 years, but long term. So always I had this goal to do that since I'm very young. So in my business school, I had to study overseas. We had compulsory 1 year to study overseas, and I was considering where I wanted to go. I already traveled in Europe. I also already traveled in USA, Canada. So I felt like I was less familiar with Asia because even South America, in France, we talk a bit about it, and I'm familiar with the culture, with football, etc. But like Asia was very new to me, so I felt like it was quite interesting to go there. I was also considering Middle East and Asia, but Middle East also there is sometimes a bit of tension and conflict. So so yeah, consider first Asia. So in the when I was in university, actually I started to study Japanese, and I went to only one classes. But so I had already this interest to go to Asia. And then when it comes to make the decision, I think I had the choice between Korea and Vietnam. I think Korea sounds a bit fun and entertaining. And then Vietnam, when I compare with all Southeast Asia, at that time, Vietnam was not very popular. When we think about Indonesia or Thailand, is very popular. People go there to travel, but Vietnam is less known, and I feel it's a bit more authentic and a bit less like less for the tourist. So that was the reason I chose Vietnam at first. And also the weather is warmer than Korea, and also the cost of living is cheaper. So you can have with the same amount of money, you can do more things. Let's say so. That was the three criteria at first. And I had a friend who already studied in Hanoi, and he told me, "Oh, I think Hanoi is better than Saigon because it's more local and you can live more like the local life than in Ho Chi Minh City is a bit more like Western." So at that time I said, okay, I want to really be inside the culture. So I chose to go to Hanoi.
So it's mean you have the personal interest with exploring the culture, authentic things.
Yes, so what I like when I am in the country is to meet the local people, to talk to people. I like also to be with other French national, and then but what interests me the most at the beginning is to meet the people.
So you spent, I think, few years in Hanoi before you moving to Ho Chi Minh City, right?
Yeah, I spent 1 year there.
Only 1 year?
Yes. So it was 2 semesters in my university, and then after that it finished. So I had to return to France at first, and then after I wanted to look for a job, and I looked back to Vietnam.
Oh, okay. So it's interesting, like you study in Hanoi, so you already know more or less how is Vietnam things, and then after that you return back to France, and then what made you come to Vietnam second time?
To be honest, when I finished studying, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So, and I didn't really look for a job when I was in Vietnam. I don't know why. Now, when I think back, it's like I wasted so much time, and it could have been so much easier maybe to do an internship, etc. But I don't know. At that time, I didn't think too much. I didn't have too much guidance also. So I just returned to France, and then after I start to work like a summer job. And then I think I start to realize that I really enjoy the life in Vietnam, like the hot weather, and it was like fun. You go by motorbike everywhere, and you feel like the life is very enthusiastic and very lively and very like entertaining. And I feel like back in France, I realized like okay, it's good, but it's something I already know, and feel like it's less fun.
Yeah, but at that time you have multiple options, right? It's like you can go back to Asia, but maybe you can apply to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, for example. But why you choose Vietnam?
So at that time, I had a girlfriend.
Okay.
So also the goal was to come back to Vietnam to be reunited. So I never really consider other country. I mean, it's always has been only Vietnam.
So a couple of months ago, we have the trip to Bangkok. You remember that times Emmanuel and I had the discussions. We think about how do you think about Bangkok, Thailand, and then you also shared to me if the first time you enter Thailand, Bangkok instead of Vietnam, Hanoi, so you probably maybe will go with Bangkok. You remember?
I mean, if you compare like as a first time travel, of course, like if you compare Hanoi and Bangkok, of course, Bangkok is much more entertaining. But I think back to where I'm living now in Ho Chi Minh City, and I saw Bangkok. So I think Bangkok is a bit more developed. There is more like shopping mall, like international stores. So for a Western who want to move to Southeast Asia, I think Bangkok is still a bit more friendly, and you can find everything that you already have in your country. I mean, not for everything, but there are more stores, more restaurants that you are familiar with. But I think what I like in Vietnam, and I think it was like small detail, but for example, in the street, like the car and the motorbike in Vietnam is a bit more chaos. So people don't really follow the traffic rule, and then they go around, and then they go on the pavement, and they don't follow the traffic light. So it can be sounds like stupid for someone who is coming from the Western country, but when I'm used to this habit in Vietnam, and then I go to Thailand and I see like people like very follow the rule and very respectful, I feel a bit like less free and a bit more like
more structure.
Structure. So this is what also I like in Vietnam is and it reflects in the personality of the people. I don't want to compare because I don't know too much about Thailand, but I can feel like people are very respectful, smiling, and like this is why in hospitality they are very good. But I think it's a bit more difficult to break the ice. When you see the Vietnamese, they are more friendly, and then they like to hug, to touch people, and so I feel like it's a bit warmer if you want to deep into the relationship, into the friendship, etc.
And also for Vietnamese, they're easy to tell what they think. Even like they get mad at you or they like you, some things they will tell you. You will know this really well. So I think by some reason, I think Vietnam is still the best place.
Because in my job, I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of foreigners who have been living in Asia in general, and also especially in Southeast Asia. When I ask them, what do you prefer? And then they have done Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. I think in majority, the preference is Ho Chi Minh City. And I think there are many different reasons for the people, for the food, also for the city. I think when you see Ho Chi Minh City, it's quite easy to go everywhere by motorbike or car, and it's not too far from each other. Like when you see the main district where Expat are going is District 1, District 2 mostly, and it's like 15 minutes from each other. I think probably, I don't know much about Bangkok, but I think it's a bit more spread out. So you need to make some choice, and then you cannot go as easily.
Yeah, and also the traffic jams.
In Vietnam, the traffic jam it's not so bad. People complain, but I think it's worse in other cities.
Yeah, okay. So back to your journeys, like maybe 6 years ago, when the first time when you think about relocate to Vietnam, what did you think? Like you feel excited, or you feel worried, scary, and any preparation?
Yeah, so I felt very excited. Actually, I didn't know anybody. I didn't go with any friends. I mean, there are some pros and cons. I think it would have been nicer with some friends. I think more fun. But also going alone pushed me to meet new people. In terms of preparation, just reading some article at that time. But I don't think I don't remember watching too many videos. How is the life there, etc. I didn't really think too much. It's just go. Did just some vaccine because my mom asked me to do the vaccine to be able to go to Vietnam, but not much preparation, to be honest. Just I think 1 or 2 weeks before flying to Vietnam, I was in holiday in Europe, traveling around, so I didn't prepare too much, to be honest.
And what is your first impressions when you enter Vietnam?
So I remember so it was, of course, it's September, so it's still very hot in Hanoi. And I remember going outside of the airport and suddenly the warm air and the very hot air hitting my face, and I was like, whoa. I never felt this kind of weather before. So yeah, it was kind of new to me, and say, okay, I'm in a different weather, different country. It's not like Europe. And then I already like found a room to rent, already had somewhere to go, and after that I also had a motorbike very fast. But the problem is so I arrived on Thursday, I remember, and on Sunday morning I had a motorbike accident, very bad motorbike accident. I ended up in a hospital. It was like also like a very like interesting welcome in the Vietnam country.
Yeah, I remember that accident bring you to Người ấy là ai game show.
Yes, exactly.
How do you compare the difference between living style in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh as an expat?
I think how I did, which means like I arrived first in Hanoi, later I moved to Ho Chi Minh City, was the best. Because when you don't know Ho Chi Minh City and you live in Hanoi, of course, you feel like there is not too many activities, bar, restaurants, and for Western people, but there are still. It's a smaller expat community, so you can still have a bit of like international vibes and international bars and clubs, and you can have also your group of friends of international friends with the teachers, the people working there, the students. So it was cool in terms of local people. The same. I think there are a bit less international exposure, but still a lot of people can speak English, especially the students. So I had no problem to make friends with the students or with my classmates. So still, it was nice to live there. I think what is nice, they have some parks over there. There is a bit more like culture with the old cultures and
authentic vibe, right?
Exactly. So it was nice, but I think as a foreigner, is much more entertaining, and also in terms of jobs, be living in Ho Chi Minh City, I think there is much more activities and much more opportunities to do business here.
Yeah, but living in Hanoi is kept like 4 seasons. You need to face with different like conditions of weathers. Ho Chi Minh is like always hot all the time, rainy and dry season and rainy seasons.
So first about the seasons, because in Europe we have also the 4 seasons. So I mean, was not much of a difference. Of course, when you are in the motorbike and it's raining, you realize it's not like walking. But yeah, you learn and then you anticipate for the next time. So weather was not a problem. I think also in the summer it became very hot, but I don't mind being too hot. So it was fine. I still actually prefer the weather in Ho Chi Minh City, even if the rainy season is longer, but it doesn't rain every day. You can avoid the rain, you can organize yourself, and then overall the weather is always warm, so you can be in flip-flop, shorts, t-shirts the whole year. So I think it's what I like as well.
Yeah, because you don't like the cold weather.
Yeah.
How about people? Do you think any difference between people in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh?
Of course, now I can notice a bit of difference, but Vietnamese behave differently between other Vietnamese and with foreigners. So I don't see too much of a difference. Of course, in Vietnam also you have the different accent, but in English there is you still speak the same English. So of course you can feel like in terms of education, way of living, lifestyle, there are some small difference. But in the like, yeah, I think among my friends I have both a mix. It's still as a foreigner. I mean, Vietnam is still a big change, and I think the culture is still very different. And so of course there is some difference between Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, but not so much for a foreigner. But I mean, if I can share, and I hope it's not taken anything badly, but you can see especially the difference between people born in Ho Chi Minh City and people born in Hanoi. In terms of, I think people in Ho Chi Minh City are more like enjoying the life, like a bit like careless, like having fun and going out all the time, and while people from Hanoi are a bit more like careful with spending money, careful with going out too much, and I think it's a bit more so in Hanoi, a bit more traditional, so they are used to be a bit more careful and to not like hang out, let's say, all the time. Yeah, there are definitely some differences. But yeah, also there is a difference between people from Hanoi who move to Saigon and who have a certain mindset, and people who in Hanoi and still stay in Hanoi. So I think also there is some gap there.
Yeah, I think people in Hanoi who staying in Hanoi have more like family oriented, and people from Hanoi on the northern like move to Saigon is more like they are seeking for some freedom, independent, and also like living their life. Yeah,
Correct.
more like that.
And I think we need to. I notice it in my work or in my people I meet. Ho Chi Minh City, even for Vietnam, is very diverse. I think from the people I know, I think probably less than 20% are actually born in Saigon. So I think I have no data, but I feel like most of the people living in Ho Chi Minh City are not born in Ho Chi Minh City. So which makes the city very diverse. People come from different provinces, not only Hanoi, of course, come from the south of Vietnam, middle, etc. So, and we can see also I can see it in my company. So, which make the city like accepting everybody, and so everybody feel comfortable in Ho Chi Minh City, because there is not like if someone from Saigon go to Hanoi, and in Hanoi, I guess most of 80% of the people are born in Hanoi, so which is more difficult to integrate in Ho Chi Minh City. The majority of the people come from different provinces, so it's easier to mix.
I agree. So back to the topics about your observations and all of your exposure when you're in Vietnam. I think you're already really into with the motorbike driving. You know, like Emmanuel drive motorbike is like a gangster. And now like he's living like the local, you know, sometimes I saw you kind of like try to across the line or do some flexibility among some other ninja lady.
Yes.
Yeah, and also you are very into Vietnamese food, right?
So yeah, I mean, I think now I drive like a Vietnamese. I think I'm easy to adapt, and then I embrace the culture, and I think is what I like also about this is the freedom. Of course, I think it's also what's beautiful about Vietnam, not only about driving, but about many things. So there are some official rule that this is the law, and then there is the street rule. Is between the official rule and the official law and the street rule, street law, there is a gap. So let's say if you follow the official law, you will never have any problem, and you will always be in the green, and then no problem. Yeah, exactly. But not only driving, but for many aspects of life. Then you have this orange part, and this orange part is or gray area, we can say. I think you need to experiment. You need to see and observe. And I love in Vietnam, what I love to do is to observe, to see how people do. And then in this gray area, you need to understand where is the limit of this gray area. Because if you cross this gray area, then you turn into the red one or the black flag, and then you get into trouble. And I think, Vietnam is what I like about it. Is like there is the gray area where you can not follow the law, but at the same time you're not disrespecting, and you're not like breaking and doing something too bad. And I think it's giving the freedom, and you can see in the personality of the Vietnamese is there is always like this flexibility, this adaptability. I feel like Vietnamese are very comfortable to be uncomfortable. Like you can easily adapt to different situations, always find maybe quickly a solution to fix a problem. When in Western, we are really like black and white, and we are less a bit creative in the way of fixing and the way of creating new things.
Yeah, I get your point. So one of my favorite things today is like go to the coffee shop at the high floor during the traffic jam and watch people moving in the roundabout. Like the way they move is very like flexibility. No one rush each other. It's like an art, you know.
Exactly, it's organized chaos.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you also changing and adapt a lot. For example, like when I know you, first impressions about you is, oh, Manu is very nuanced. You know, it's like very structured, very follow the rule. And then I think like you cannot accept some other things, like you cannot have like accept some others like flexible room. For example, like you are a very on time person. Yeah. So for example, 7 p.m. is 7 p.m. If someone come to 7:5, you gonna have like not happy. But I think now Manu now is like also adapt with kind of things.
Yeah, I think this is an example. I think the other example that sometimes can be frustrating in Vietnam for expat coming at first is in the culture, there is not as much politeness, courtesy as we have in France or in Europe. It can be letting people going out for the elevator or holding the door or letting someone going first or saying please or thank you, or when there is a line, some people try to cut the line, let's say at the gas station. So I think, of course, at the beginning, and I think it happened to all the foreigners, it takes more or less time for people to adapt, and some people would never adapt, and after many years still complain. I think for me, of course, at the beginning, I was not happy and very frustrated with this kind of small things. But after the many years, I start to accept, and I anticipate, and I already know that this is going to happen, and so I'm not angry when it happens. So I'm more like positively surprised when it doesn't happen, and yeah, you start to live with that. It doesn't mean that I still have my culture, I still have my rules, let's say, like internal rules. So of course, I'm not like become an irrespectful person, but yeah, I still you need to accept, and if you are not happy with that, then you're not going to change the people. So you need to accept it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it yourself, but yeah, I think it's important, because I see some people who keep getting frustrated by some behavior that are very common in Vietnam. For example, like cutting the line or some courtesy manners. And then I don't understand why after so many years they still get angry, because I mean, it should be also very tiring for them to get angry all the time because it's not going to change. So I feel a bit bad for those people, because this will keep happening.
Yeah, I agree. But to be honest, as a Vietnamese, right, sometimes I also feel get angry when I see someone cutting the line. It's just not about the culture, but it's more on the education part. The more social developing, so the more education people should take it. So I think for the young generation right now, they are more or less like they know how to be polite. They need to say thank you. They need to say please, or they need to like keep the door, the gate whenever they get out of the car, or the doors, keep for the girls, for example. So this is like maybe in the old generations they don't know how to do that, but for the young generation right now, they should learn, they should adapt for the good manner from international. So I think like if someone is the young generation, if they cutting the line in the, let's say, business center, professional environment, I will get angry.
Yeah. I agree with you, and yeah, I see definitely the young generation is adapting, and this is changing.
Yeah, like if at the public space, and then let's say you go to the restroom and then you see many people like the old lady to cutting the line, you say, oh, this is about the education problem. Yeah. So I will not start to not complain.
And then you asked me about the food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the same. I think I embrace and enjoy a lot of the Vietnamese food, and I think it's good. I mean, especially in Vietnam, there are a lot of good food, so better enjoy it. Of course, there are some limits, limitation.
You surprised me. You actually really surprised me. At the first time we went to the off store, and then you can order all things in the menu. Even I don't know what is that.
Yeah. I mean, where I'm coming from, there is a lot of seafood. So is not so much different. I'm used to eat a lot of seafood. So yeah, I really enjoy op, and it's one of my favorite go-to place when it comes to eating out with friends, or I brought also a lot of dates.
This is your tactic, right?
This is my
To
killer point.
yeah, actually, Vietnam girls will be impressed by the foreigners who into culture. So, for example, like the other day, I talked to my friends as well. We feel more friendly and impressed when the foreigner calls Saigon instead of Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah, because Saigon is the old name. Now it's like not officially anymore. But like if someone calls Saigon, it means like they already understand and they know about us more than what they just know from the news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. So I mean, with the food, of course, I think most of the foreigner has some limits.
So what is your limitation?
Like when the smell is too strong, we can think about the
mắm tôm.
the shrimp sauce. We can think about the durian. We can think. For me, I cannot eat spicy, so I mean, Vietnam is fine. Actually, the food is not spicy, but usually people put or add some chili. So most of the time is fine. But so. But otherwise, of course, I have my preferences, but I can more or less eat everything. But yeah, of course, it's very different from the food is very different.
Yeah. So for durian, I think it depends on people because there's some Asians cannot eat durian.
Also, yeah.
How about hột vịt lộn?
I try also, but I mean, if I have to choose, I will prefer not to eat again. But I try, and it was not bad. But
because of the dog?
Yeah, it's feel a bit weird.
Yeah.
To eat the nose of the dog.
Okay, yeah. But you are in love with street food, right?
Yeah, I love to eat street food. One is much cheaper than Western food. So in terms of think about budget, is cheaper. I like to sit. I mean, I'm very casual. I'm not a fancy guy. I need to sit in a fancy restaurant. I like to eat and sit in the small stool, the small chairs. So and
this is very difficult for foreigner to sit in a small stool like this.
I mean, it depends how tall you are.
Yeah, but you are tall.
Yeah, so for me it's okay, but sometimes I need to extend the legs. So yeah, I like street food. I have my favorite places. So yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think it's what you need to, because I talk with some foreigners, or I heard about some foreigner who don't eat at all Vietnamese food. Yeah, a bit sad for them, because I think it's part of the also experience. Of course, you can do without it, and everybody do whatever they want. But I feel like they're missing something about Vietnam.
Yeah, I think most of foreigner I have met, they said that the main motivation to keep there in Vietnam is because of the food.
Really?
Yeah, it's like we have a lot of choice, right? Let's think about bún. Only bún we have already, like bún riêu, bún chả, bún thịt nướng, bún bò, whatever bún things. So it's just very diverse and different states. I think it's healthier than Western food because a lot of veggies.
Yeah, a lot of soup. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think most of foreigners, they told me they're in love with food in Vietnam. Maybe because I'm a Vietnamese, I don't know.
They try to please you.
Yeah. So what do you hate the most when you live in Saigon?
I think, the first thing that comes into my mind is maybe if you want to have a family, the cost of living to have a family is much higher than in Europe. So so it's not hate, but it's like just like something I am concerned. Let's say if I want to stay a long time in Vietnam, is because you have the international school, you have the not real insurance, like health insurance, not really pension. So all these things that are taken care in Europe. So healthcare is free and it's a very high standard, and even for very complex or even like for basic thing, everything is paid. For the education, we don't spend extra money on education. Sport activities is very cheap in France. You have a pension, and everybody can complain about it that you have to work a long time, but at least you have something at the end of your life when you want to retire. And this in Vietnam, you need to earn more money to cover for this. So it creates a bit of concern and worry at some point, because you want to make sure you can survive and you can take care of yourself in the future. So it's good to have fun in Vietnam, but also at some point you need to think about the future, because when you pass 30, 40 years old and you want to family and think about the future, you need to anticipate. And the same with buying a real estate in France. Like you can borrow at a very cheap rate, interest rate, and also you don't need to put too big amount of deposit. But in Vietnam, it's much more difficult to access to be the owner of an apartment. So which creates some concern. So it's not like hate, but just concern for me, like as an expat, to live a long time in Vietnam. So but otherwise, I don't think. Hate also complain about. I feel like the infrastructure also could be better. You can think about the road, the metro, the public transportation.
Oh, it's long time.
Sometimes the infrastructure, like the road, sometimes is not fixed or etc. But I don't think about it, and I don't feel angry about it every day. So I feel like I hope it could be better. So I think it would be nicer. But I'm happy with how it is.
About the living style when you have family, I think it is not only your concerns, but it's everyone. Even like for me, I'm Vietnamese and so concerned about that. I think that the thing in Vietnam is we have very let's say multi-level of the living cost and rat rate. For example, if you want to send your kid to the private school, it's different price. If you want to send to the public school, the cost somehow can cover. The insurance or the hospitality somehow is there is the gap, with pay or without pay, but it's also very significant high different quality. So if you want to live the life with the almost like the same living standard with other country, you need to try the best hard of your career life, the business, and also think to make more money in order to secure your living style. Otherwise, if you get it flow, so you just send your kid to the public school and don't really care about the insurance or something. So it's not that difficult to live in the long run. But anyway, as we are people, right, everyone to move up. That's why I think is the big rat race for the young generation in Vietnam right now. And also for the real estate or something, I think something is kind of unstable. The rates can increase significantly. It's not in the long-term plan. This is something you cannot forecast, and it pretty much depends on how is the market shaking. And when it's shake, it's shaking more than other countries as well. The reason why I asked you what do you hate the most in Vietnam, because there's one of our friends also asking the same question.
Okay.
But he asked me.
Okay.
So the thing I answers, I remember, is about the traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other friends will answer she hates karaoke.
Okay.
So how do you think about the karaoke in Vietnam?
I never really had any issue so far.
Because you're living in the building, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's also it's back to our topic. I think if you are rich, you can live in an area, or if you have a certain amount of income, you can live in an area where it's mostly building and people who live in the building is also people who have enough income. So we talk about who are a bit more educated, and anyway in those building you are not allowed to do karaoke. So, but of course, if you live more in the house and a small building, then you are next to the neighbors, and and there is a risk of karaoke. So yeah, I never really faced that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's not about karaoke, but it's also about the same. For example, like, have you ever been to any coffee shop and then the construction is around the karaoke is there's the other part?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, for me, I'm not someone who is angry easily, who
Yeah.
complain too much in comparison with some other people. So I think I am paying less attention to
Yeah.
this.
I think you are the most like easiest friends I ever met.
So yeah, I think so. This is why I tried to introduce at the beginning of the podcast about where I'm from, the area where I was from, where a lot of culture, a lot of people with different background, etc. So which I think make me a bit more flexible because it's always been like that. Also, when I was very young, I go in summer to different countries or to live with different nationalities. So I think it's helped me to be more flexible and not paying too much attention.
Yeah, but at the beginning when you relocate to Vietnam, there's many things like annoying things, and then you also kind of complain a lot, right?
Of course,
the natures.
of course, and I think everybody. I mean, when you see something which is different and you cannot do exactly how you do in your country, you at the beginning you start to complain and to miss a bit like the different way of doing. But yeah, I think it's depends on the people. As I said, some people will after a few weeks they get used to it. Sometimes a few months, few years, or some people never.
And how is your Vietnamese level?
I mean, it's still at the beginner level, unfortunately. I think it's a question that most of the people I meet always ask me, and it's always a mixed feeling. So, I mean, to put things in perspective, I mean, in Vietnam, you can have a job, you can live very well without speaking Vietnamese. So, which make the motivation to learn less. You have less motivation to learn because actually you don't need it too much in the life every day. And then otherwise you can use Google Translate, and so you don't feel as an expat too much the need to learn. And if you want to learn, yes, you can learn, but the same. The Vietnamese also, they also interested to improve their English. So when they meet a foreigner, they don't want always to, I mean, if I speak Vietnamese perfectly, maybe they actually want to switch to English because they want to improve their English. So on the other side also, Vietnamese, they want to speak to you in English. So which make less chance to practice in the case of someone who is learning. Of course, they will appreciate and they will like you to speak Vietnamese, but sometimes they will prefer to speak to you in English. It's not all the people, but some people.
Yeah, but I think it's like, I mean, one of the reasons is not about they want to learn English, but maybe because they think communicate with you in English is better than in Vietnamese.
Yeah, of course. So I myself, I cannot compare because I don't speak Vietnamese. So, but I feel there is a part for that. So of course, like Vietnamese is, I don't think it's easy language to learn at the beginning, especially the pronunciation. I think for me, this part, I got the pronunciation. So it's now when I see a word, a new word, I know how to pronounce it, how to say it. So, and I think this is the most difficult because even some basic word that you can, even like as a foreigner, you need to learn soon when you arrive. But if you don't know how to pronounce correctly, and you keep pronouncing not correctly, like you people will never understand you. So I think I recommend like for a foreigner is to first learn the pronunciation and the tones, etc. I think it will take you 10, 20 lessons to learn the pronunciation. And after that, you can make the choice to learn more or just to stop. But I think if you know the pronunciation, then after you can pronounce all the food, all the basic words that you may need in the daily life. And I think it's the minimum. And I think with that, is can be enough for most of the people.
Yeah, it's well very funny. Like just this morning, I met one Expat friend, and then when they called the waiter, normally we will call M-ơi, right?
Yeah.
But I think for him, he's like have mispronouncing, and then he called M-yêu. It's just like he called M-yêu, M-yêu. It's like for just to check the bill, and it's like this. I mean, oh my God, what is the level of? But it's kind of like funny story, because like we understand that he just like missed the words of M-ơi and M-yêu, but the meaning is totally different.
Yeah, exactly. So small difference can mean make the difference in the understanding.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. I agree that it's very, very difficult for Expat to pronounce exactly the tones, because in Vietnam we have 6 tones. In Thai we have 5 tones. Chinese we have 4 tones. So for Vietnamese, when we learned all the language, it's always easier in terms of like pronouncing. But from like English speaking country, you guys from no tones come to 6 tones. It's very difficult.
This stuff, but I think otherwise the grammar is not too difficult. But I didn't reach this part yet. So.
Yeah, but I think like as your level, you can cut some words.
Yeah, I mean, I think I need to learn a bit more about the vocabulary, and then I could be fine. But yeah, now I can start to do some small sentence also and to understand a bit more. But I don't learn enough to be able to be fluent.
Yeah. Yes. I think for your level it's already good. Already kind of like cute enough to catch the girl, you know. Like, I mean, we don't expect the foreigner can speak fluently in Vietnamese. It's just, for us, someone who can speak fluently is like alliance, you know.
Yeah. It's impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive when they can pronounce and pronounce exactly the same tones. So for example, like your is totally different meaning, and like even as fast like don't know this and then pronounce like your to yours.
Yeah.
They already give you another truth.
Exactly.
Yeah, and maybe last question. From your point of view, do you think any improvement points the Vietnamese should learn from the other country? Should do something better?
I think it's something I notice. I think it's difficult to change because it's also part of the education. But and also is the opposite is very important in a country like especially like France, is to disagree. In France, we have this habit of disagreeing. If someone tells us something, we're not going to agree and to think it's correct. We're just going to think, maybe make some research, discuss with other friends, and then make our own opinion. And it applies in especially at work. When it comes to, there is a situation, let's say there is a new potential new market, and I can see that the Vietnamese, if the manager not telling them, oh, you have to now focus on this market or you should do that, they will not take the initiative or take the risk to raise it to the boss. Or sometimes when the manager is saying something, they will not like debate. And sometimes in Europe is very healthy. It's not like it's not because I disagree that I don't like you. While in Vietnam, people can feel like if you disagree, people may feel, oh, it's because they don't like me or they are against me. I think, and it's come from I talk with some friends about the education, like in Vietnam, like in the family, like you cannot really disagree with your parents. But of course, there are some basic things. I'm not talking about, I don't know, like disagreeing to do your own homework, etc. But about like more like debating about a lot of different topics. And also, I think it's also part of the different political system. So, of course, in France, we are used to debate, to etc. And in Vietnam, of course, there is more like one line to follow. So it's more difficult to have this. So I think, and coming to the work life, I think also in the study, Vietnamese is very good at learning. But when it comes to sometimes group project, they are not used to do that at school. They are not used to collaborate, to convince people. And you can also compare, for example, the opposite is the American people who are very good with public speaking, with convincing people. And I think in Vietnam is very like you study your page, your book, but you don't know much about what is outside and how to sometimes to socialize, how to impact people. So of course, many people can do it. But sometimes in the work environment, when they join the workforce, when they are young in their career, they need to learn this. While I feel like in France, when I started my career, I'm much more mature in terms of how to work with people, to understand quickly what's a professional way of working. While in Vietnam, I think it takes a bit some years of adaptation.
Yeah, agree in some points. I think I mean talking about work and life also. I think I can understand some insight about why the Vietnamese people not debate too much. Two reasons. One is they are not into that. They are okay, learn to follow. And second, maybe they lost motivations to try to fight for something. Like we not talk about political something, but it's like people just don't care about this.
Exactly.
And they choose to just skip it. Anything I cannot do, I just follow.
And actually, I like this mindset because it's what now. So what I enjoy living in Vietnam is I'm not here to debate and to fight on any kind of small topic that is not actually impacting my life. What I like also in Vietnam is that people, they care about themselves, a bit like selfish, like everything they can control, they try to make an impact. Everything they cannot control, they don't care.
Yes.
And actually, I think it's the best way to be happy because you don't care about other people's problem. You just care about your problem. You fix it, and then you try to focus on yourself. So and I like it in a way because it's like creating less like conflict and less like
for your life also.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think in the long run, I mean, we think about macro thing a little bit for big picture. So people should care for themselves and also should care about people just to make the markets is more developed and also the social is better. Yeah, so it's just like
a conflict.
The gray areas, like we need to find a balanced way.
Exactly. So I think that what is in a way good in Vietnam is there is a lot of influence from overseas country, and you see the families in Vietnam, they want their kid either to learn English, to expose to Western culture. So I think also, as we say, this will come more and more because they will have the habit to see in other culture that they do like this, so they will try to replicate. So I think it will come slowly, but yeah, I think when we can think about myself when I was just graduating from university, and Vietnamese would just graduate from university, I think there is at that time a gap between ability to work independently, to make your own decision, etc.
Yeah, agree. There's some point of different definition, but I think I'm just speaking about the year of experience. So actually, for example, people turning to my age is like 30, right? So we have like roughly 8, 10 years of experience. But at the same time, I think like someone who's also turned to 30s in different country, they probably have more than 10 years of experience. Year is like not only how many years you work in the company, it's like the time you join to the market, to work, life, the experience you gain from. So I think that is something for Vietnam we are lacking on. Because to be honest, I think one of the different things for the Asia and also for Vietnam specifically is like we were pampered, we got raised up all in our parents' hands until we graduated from university.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe like for someone at their first job is also kind of like sponsor asking help from their family as well. So they are just start to learn how is life when they enter the first job. While in other country they start to like cross into the life, the rat race, everything since they are university or even earlier than that.
Exactly. I mean, just a small example, but in France, even if you are wealthy and your parents have money, but if you want to go on holiday in summer, you need to work, do part-time job. The parents, I mean, depend on the family, but most of the parents, all of my friends, parents will not give money to go travel, or to give pocket money. So you need to work in the summer. In Vietnam, yeah, if the family can afford, they will tell the kid, "Oh no, don't do a part-time job, don't work, focus on studying and etc." So yeah, in Vietnam they like to care about the kids and give a lot of attention, and they don't want them to be exposed to the real life too soon. While in Western countries, like parents, they say, okay, you want to be independent, go and and then experiment younger.
Yeah, that is something about the cultures, the way you raise the kid, and also in the big picture is in part on the working style and also the way of developing improvement for people development as well. It's really good to know. Anything else you want to add on?
No, I think we cover a lot of topic. It was very nice to share all of this and to summarize, because I mean it's question that I have been asked more or less all the time, and I think I appreciate, because yeah, people are curious to understand how it is to live in Vietnam. So yeah, is those topic is not new to me, and it's always interesting to discuss about it again.
Well, we almost covered on the topic. It's really interesting to talk to you today. I think it's a little bit awkward because you and I never have a sit and talk professional like that. So it's just really nice, at least to hear about your story. And also, I think it's just very useful for any expat about to come to Vietnam. Yeah, so thank you for joining our podcast. And I wish you a bit cheesy, but I wish you all luck, all happiness, and staying longer time in Vietnam.
Okay, thank you. I hope so. I hope the same. So thank you for wishing it to me.
Okay, so cảm ơn mọi người đã lắng nghe buổi podcast ngày hôm nay của DIY Coaster Talk. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn vào tập sau nha.